Streaming live and ready to go.
Great, thank you very much. Good evening. I want to call to order the September 14th meeting of the COCC Board of Directors. Our first item today is going to be the native lands acknowledgements. And the purpose of this is really to acknowledge someone. And that is to say, essentially, I see you, you are significant. And the purpose of a land acknowledgement is to recognize and pay respect to the original inhabitants of a specific region. And it's an opportunity for us to express gratitude and appreciation for those territories existing. And so the COCC land acknowledgement goes as follows. COCC would like to acknowledge that the beautiful land our campuses reside on are the original lands of the Wasque, the Wasco, and the Wanalama, or the Warm Springs people. They ceded this land to the U.S. government in the Treaty of 1855. The Numu, or we know as the Paiute people, were forcibly moved to the Warm Springs Indian Reservation starting in 1879. It's also important to note that the Klamath Trail ran north through this region, the Great Celilo Falls trading ground, and the Klamath tribes claim it as their own. Descendants of these original people are thriving members of our community today. We acknowledge and thank the original stewards of this land. The next item is roll call.
Calling roll, Ruth Abernathy,
Here.
Joe Crenwick,
Yes.
Laura Crafton.
Here.
Alan Unger,
Here.
Erica Scaffold,
Here.
Jim Clinton,
Here.
Oliver Tatum,
Here.
Lori Chesley,
Here.
Laura Boney. Here. Is Anne Marie with us?
She is, I know she's watching, but she's ill.
Oh, that's right, I knew
Yeah.
that, sorry. Alicia Moore, here, Christy Tom,
Here.
Stephanie Geck, here, Adrian Sorrell, here, Ken Betcha,
Here.
Peter McCaffrey,
Here.
Paul Taylor,
Here.
and Jennifer Present, and the wall.
Great, thank you very much. The next item is introduction. Christy, you and I willing to come on up and tell us a little bit about yourself? We've certainly been having communications with you, and we've been working with Lori over the last couple of months. It's nice to see you in person, and love to hear a little bit about you.
Hello, my name is Christy. I am Alicia Moore's administrative assistant in the Office of Student Affairs and interim Lori's assistant. Yay, it's been fun. So a little bit about me. I was born in Burma and I moved to California in '96 and recently moved to Oregon in 2017. And then to Bend in 2019, right before lockdown, so that's been fun. I love my dog, Walter, a lot, and I really like fried chicken. Especially gas station fried chicken.
Well, again, thank you very much. We do appreciate how you've been helping Lori manage her schedule.
As well as the board.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's nice to meet you.
Thank you.
I'm bragging a little bit here. You know, Christy is, first of all, she's funny as all get out, so I really, really enjoy her, and we all do. But she's incredibly prolific and hard worker. She helps out so many departments, not just me and all of you. But she's just a superstar. And so I'm really lucky, and I promise I'm not dragging my feet on a fire so that you have to. I promise I'm not.
Oh,
Great, thank you again, appreciate that. Are there any agenda changes that I need to know about? Great. Next item is public comment. Does anyone want to make any public comments? Okay, great. The next item is the board committee appointments. I don't know if I'm necessarily going to want to walk through.
I think maybe I should ask if the gentleman who just walked in wants to make public.
Do you want to make public comment?
I do, I didn't need to. What an entrance, there we go.
This is the time to do it then.
Perfect.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is Scott Brees. I'm the Executive Director of Connect Central Oregon. Many of you know me in various capacities. Today I'm speaking public comment as executive director on behalf of my organization. It was important that my organization present back to the COCC board and let you know that there's some work that I think we collectively need to do to make sure that the board and the staff are helping with the transition of serving as a public entity and stewarding some of the space across the campuses as we move back into more in-person activities. As many of you know, I run the candidate forums for the League of Women Voters and partnered with City Club for the last 3 years. Through multiple steps and multiple processes, we've had some difficulty with various scheduling organizations. My most recent example of some scheduling with COCC went in, and my board actually presented probably best as we weren't having the type of collaborative, let's find a solution that we were hoping and that we expect, and that honestly we come to expect. What we got was, the answer is no, please move on. And then when we try to inquire a little bit more and actually work to that, it comes across a little bit aggressive. We all recognize that we're dealing with staffing, we recognize we're dealing with changes in transition, but knowing that there are some standards and some goals and objectives on behalf of the university and the college to help represent their role of stewarding the space, and in particular the college in Central Oregon. It's just something that I want to remind as we transition, and certainly as we transition leadership, keep an eye on it, because it does require that crossover between staff and the board. We're a partner. We want to continue to be community partners, and we want to be able to continue bringing this back. So again, thank you for your time. It was more just letting you know that this is kind of an active thing. We're solving it, but the action request really is, please keep aware that there's going to be some challenges as we all restaff and return to whatever our new normal is. So again, thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate that. Next item is board committee appointments. I'm not going to walk through them all. I think I sent them out separately. Again, I really appreciate everybody stepping up. There are a lot of committees, a lot of task forces, entities that go on outside of what people see the board action taking place while we are here. Next item is the consent agenda. The only item on that is the meeting minutes from our July 13th meeting. I'll move approval of the consent agenda. Moved by Alan, second from Oliver. Further discussion?
I just recommend that we change it from an agenda to board minutes. Upper the right hand corner. This is agenda, not minutes.
Thank you. That was known as a Scrivener's error. Am I right, Jim? Am I right, Alan? It doesn't need to be voted on. So all those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you. Moving on to information items, the financial statements. Sorrell? Adrian Sorrell?
Yeah.
So my only question is, it looked like the average return went from 0.75 to 1.25. Is that statistically, I mean, it sounds huge, like a huge increase. Does that make a big difference to our bottom line, or?
At this point, I would say no, and I'm sorry, I don't have the financials in front of me to see exactly what you're saying. I think one thing because I produced those financials, one thing that I did see and to point out is if you look at the budgets for the individual funds, you can see that all the funds are negatively budgeted. And I just wanted to point that out, that because of the last couple of years of effects of COVID, we've been able to build up fund balances because expenditures have gone down due to COVID. So we don't budget we don't present in this format a beginning fund balance. So that is why the budget all look like we're budgeting a loss, which really aren't at a loss because we do have the fund balance to support.
Great, thank you for that clarification. Any other questions?
Just a comment, above 1% for the state pool is great.
Yes. Cool. Next item is the new hire reports. Anyone have any questions, comments? Next item is community education marketing update.
All right.
If I could, can I give a little bit of an introduction
do.
to this? Thank you. So, you're going to hear two presentations tonight from two different areas. One of them is community education and the other is the Center for Business, Industry and Professional Development. And as background, I want to let you know that these two units were formerly one, and they were called continuing education. And you know that one of my goals in coming, after coming to college, was to do some reorganization and strengthen our workforce development outreach and service to the community, and make it easier for business and industry to get in touch with us if they have needs. So people looking for work and people who have jobs to offer. And I wanted to particularly bring together and align around workforce development, our credit offerings and our non-credit offerings. And so at this point, Stephanie, there you are, good. Stephanie reports to Dean Cindy Leonard, and she is focused on community education. And one of their main goals, as you'll hear, is to bring more offerings to our community and to our outlying communities. And Ken, who you'll hear from a bit later, reports to Dean Michael Fisher, who is in charge of all of our workforce development offerings, credit and non-credit, except for health careers, which is under another person. So I want to kind of give you a little bit of background in a kind of counterintuitive way. We separated these two folks, these two entities,
right,
to align talents and services and to sort of give them more oomph to do the good work that they're doing. So wanted to give that that's a technical term. Wanted to give that and they've got you're going to hear it. So
Well, I'm looking forward
please.
to it, actually, because what you mentioned is, if you think about it, I don't want to use the word a little counterintuitive, but
It is
where I thought you'd be like, okay, come in and streamline it, everyone thinks it's merge,
Yeah.
and you're actually taking the talents that we have and things we think
Yeah.
are more effective by separating.
Yeah,
So,
kind of
Great.
aligning tasks and content and expertise. And so.
And giving us own. Their presentation done. I want to thank you guys for inviting us in to talk about this because I am really passionate, excuse me, about enrichment programming. Excuse me, it's the smoke, about enrichment programming here at COCC. And by enrichment programming, I'm talking about what I call the fun classes, and that's not to imply that there aren't other fun classes, but this is where our students and our constituents choose to spend their discretionary income to come to COCC, take a language class, take an art class, take a wellness class, create community, learn something new. And I think that's really important to recognize that. The list just goes on about what enrichment programming is. And so for those of you who don't know me, I'm Stephanie Getch, and I am the Community Education Coordinator. I've been in that role since January with the restructure that Lori just mentioned. And prior to that, I was about 7, almost 8 years as a program manager for what was then continuing education. We have been in transition since January, and it's not just because of the restructure, but also because we felt like the rest of the world and the rest of the nation been coming out of the pandemic. And so rather than just pivot backwards to 2019 and continue doing things the way that they had been done prior to the pandemic, I really took the opportunity to assess the new landscape and kind of see what we learned through the pandemic and through going remote on a dime, and really just started processing and reimagining, if you will, the future of enrichment programming at COCC. So I'm here to share with you some of the exciting things we've done since January. And some of this has influenced our marketing plan that Jen will talk to you about in a little bit. And our first significant change was our name change and a brand update and a brand refresh. We went from continuing education, this huge overarching umbrella organization, to community education. And that is just really more indicative of what we do and what we're really focused on in enrichment programming. And it also better aligns us with the mission of the college, which I'm going to read it to you so I don't get it wrong, but the mission of the college, promoting student success and community enrichment by providing quality lifelong educational opportunities. That is the focus of the new community education. Many of our goals are also aligned with what Dr. Chesley spoke to us about and at the kickoff and her themes. And most significantly is really bringing access to community education to our communities and bringing what is the looking for. Accessibility, thank you. So we've done a number of things to improve access over the past 6 or 8 months. One of the things is dual modalities. We pivoted on a dime in March 2020. We went fully remote. And what I learned as I look backwards is our students will take a class if it was offered. After they got over their first initial fear of Zoom, they gravitated to that dual modality or that remote modality. And so coming out, we still have students who want to take remote classes. We have students who want to take in-person classes, and it's finding that balance to be able to have that accessibility to students. And I'll give you an example. Spanish 3, we have an audience for both remote and in-person. So in fall term, we've started offering remote in the morning on Tuesday mornings, and then the same instructors teaching it in person in the evening. That gives some flexibility to the student, but it's also giving the student, if they miss a class, the ability to easily make it up and still be working with the same instructor, so they're not losing something in the instructional design. Another thing that we've done is we're doing more of a rolling registration, which allows community education to be more flexible in its offerings. We can open up classes, we can continually add new classes, we can add a new date if the class is filled. We can add dates out into the future so that the students have a lot of opportunities to, and just better schedule to their lifestyles. For example, Alan, he might want to take a ceramics class. That's one of our most popular classes. He can go online right now and he can find out when the next date is, and he can register online immediately. If that class is filled, we have likely already opened up the next session in the next section. So that way there's not a need for a waiting list. So if you see something online, it's going to have seats available. And that just, once again, accessibility, flexibility, a lot of options for the students. The other really exciting thing that I'm really proud of is just the working with the branch campuses and really reimagining our brand on those campuses and working with each of the campus directors to really identify the needs of each community, because they're all very unique, so that we can do a better job of offering what the community needs for each branch campus. So some of the real exciting changes that we've made already is Central Oregon Summer Spanish Immersion, our Spanish Immersion program, returned this past summer in person. We moved it out to the Redmond campus, gave it a little bit of a brand refresh. We filled it to capacity plus a few extra, and we were able to partner into the community with some businesses to bring some of our events out into Redmond, and it was a lot of fun.
My brother took it.
Yeah, Father Unger took it and loved it. And we're excited to do that. We have room to grow, and we really are looking forward to staying out there in Redmond and offering that as an anchor program for the summer. The other thing in Redmond is the Redmond Community Choir. It starts Monday. They come back to practice. We have 59 students enrolled. Super excited to be partnering with them again. We are also creating a Frick County Community Choir that is modeled after the Redmond Community Choir. We hope to have that up and running in the winter of 2023. And we've also partnered with the Upper Deschutes Watershed Council to offer 2 lecture series, one on the Upper Deschutes Watershed out in South County and one on the Tolley's Watershed in Sisters. That's really super exciting. That's like a 5-week lecture series that culminates in a full day field trip out into the watersheds. We're all excited and aware of the mattress construction and things going on out there in that community. So we'll have the opportunity to really listen to that community and meet its needs as that grows out. But I will also mention, as I remembered on the way in here this afternoon, we have partnered with Rick Molitor at New Basin, and he's not only just offering us the appreciation online, but he's opened his business to us to do a hands-on distilling class. The students get to go in, to get to distill their own whiskey, learn about the legalities of it and the history of it. It's just a ton of fun. Rick's a great partner. But I would be remiss if I did not mention these youth camps. We brought youth camps back this summer in fine fashion. I can't even tell you enough about it. We offered 30 individual camps on all 4 campuses, serving 414 students, all in person. We received grant funding to offer them free of charge in Crook and Jefferson counties. So we were better able to serve underserved students in those communities. And I just, like I said, I can't say enough about that, but I've got to give Jen some time to talk too. So I hope that just gives you, I could talk about this all night long, really. But I hope that gives you an idea of how we have really focused and done some intentional stuff within the communities while still staying vibrant and strong here in the Bend community as well. So Jen, would you like to take it away and talk about our marketing plan?
Totally. It's
Thank
fun
you.
when your job is just to be the amplifier of the good work that's being done around here. As Lori mentioned, there was a restructuring, and as part of that restructuring, the college actually moved a marketing coordinator position that was under, at the time, continuing ed, over into my department, into marketing and public relations. And not too long after, we hired Renita Cuevas, who is now in that role and deserves a lot of the credit for what I'm going to share with you today. So following the reorg, our department spent about 6 months analyzing who our current community education student is and who our potential community education students might be. And what we learned is that from our existing students, they tended to be 55 or older, female, and most interested in taking recurring fitness and culinary community ed classes. But we also learned that our potential personal enrichment customer is far more broadly defined than that. We also analyzed community ed's web traffic, email marketing efficacy, and the user experience in the course enrollment platform, identifying areas for improvement in each. We took the time to reach out to our fellow Oregon community colleges to ask what they were doing to successfully market non-credit offerings. And we also spoke with partners like Bend Parks and Rec to understand the impact that removing a printed course schedule might have on enrollment. So speaking of the community ed course schedule, which I'm sure you've all received in the mail in the past, prior to the reorg that Lori mentioned, community education was spending $90,000 a year to print that course schedule 4 times a year. And that budget only enabled the department to send to 2/3 of districts. There wasn't sufficient funds to send to 100% of households. So the department chose to send to the zip codes where the most existing students currently live. And that printed schedule was really community ed's only real marketing tactic. And there wasn't a sort of broader multimodality plan in place at the time. As you might have experienced elsewhere in your work, printing costs are rising exponentially. On average, printing costs have risen 14% a quarter over the last 2 years. And so a quarterly course schedule was an increasingly cost prohibitive use of taxpayer dollars. And additionally, the resource was proving not to be particularly environmentally responsible. A course might cancel due to instructor availability, or a popular course might fill before the schedule had even hit a mailbox. And so we were seeing that the printed schedule was typically outdated within days of being printed. And that in turn creates customer service frustration because people expect to be able to register for what they're reading about in print. As we did this analysis, there was also an important report that came out from the AARP, and given who we found our existing customers to be, we found that report informative in our decision-making. So as a highlight of that report, which looked at the technology habits for adults ages 50 plus during 2020 and 2021, the AARP named those years the years when older adults' use of technology moved from occasional or tentative to solidly habitual. Older adults ages 50 plus tended to be slower to return to in-person gatherings for health concerns or other reasons. But nearly 2 years of the pandemic have helped a larger percentage of older adults feel far more confident using a range of technologies, navigating social media, shopping online, attending events or courses online, and simply being on the internet. And that report also noted that Facebook and YouTube were 2 important platforms to reach those older populations. But the AARP report also shared something we know all too well here in Central Oregon, which is that access to affordable, high-speed, and reliable internet remains a problem, especially for lower income, rural, and BIPOC communities. So as Renita Cuevas and I prepared a marketing strategy for community ed, we knew that we were going to need to use many different mediums to be equitable and effective in our outreach. So we're starting a new academic year and we are beginning to execute this new non-credit marketing plan. And it's informed in part by the successes and the lessons learned that we've had over the last 2 years with our credit marketing efforts. So we're changing up the direct mail strategy. What we're doing is we are sending bifold brochures and postcards to 100% of this of households in the district. And those will go out 4 times a year on a schedule based on what we want to share. And you'll see, I know it's small here, but we're making sure that we're including not only web links and QR codes directing people to the online course registration, but we're also including phone numbers and email addresses and in-person office hours so that you can still register the way you're most comfortable doing so. We've also partnered with The Source Weekly to distribute not only our brochures, but also to put up posters all over our district. So where you see Hayden Homes Amphitheater shows posters, you're now going to start to see promotional posters with the QR code, just sharing what we do at Community Education. Some of the other things we're doing, again, mirroring what we're doing on the credit side, 24/7 year-long paid online search. If you want to search for a ceramics class, you're going to go to Google or Bing, and we want our ceramics class to come up first. We're going to be doing paid social media advertising, specifically focused on Facebook and YouTube. You're going to see more sponsored content in your local papers talking about what community education offers. You'll hear PSAs running 2 months out of every year on our Bend radio group station partners talking about community ed offerings. And we'll run 2 print ads a year in this week. The other thing I just want to point out is the brand refresh that Stephanie mentioned. So this is the new look and feel of the website in the upper left, the email marketing, newsletter in the upper right, and in the lower right, it's the online course platform Enroll. And I'm really pleased to say that with rolling registration and the change to email marketing, we've over doubled the engagement metrics of those emails, so over doubling the click-through rate. We've also increased web traffic by 8%, increased the number of community education page views by 18%, and maybe the statistic I'm most excited about is that we've nearly doubled the average visitor's time spent on these web pages. So people are coming, they're clearly finding what they want, and they're sticking around longer, which is a great sign that customer service is being improved.
Okay, so this is my favorite slide of the day.
No pictures.
No pictures, all numbers first, it's all numbers. This is our summer to summer comparison. So this is summer 2021 on the left and summer 2022 on the right. Keep in mind that summer 2022 was the first year we did not do, our first term, we did not do a print catalog. And we are overperforming over last summer in all across the board. So it looks like, we offer 98 courses, which is fewer courses, but the bigger impact. We have a smaller cancellation rate, which means we're offering the courses students want to take. We are filling the courses that students want to take. We've almost doubled our students served over the previous year. And then we flipped our in-person and remote. Obviously, 2021 was still a high COVID year, but also, if you look at 90% in-person and 10% remote, students are still taking those classes in the format that they want to take them. So that's super exciting for a first year early results. If you look at the adult breakdown, we are surpassing the previous summer in all areas. And once again, I just ask you to look at that. We didn't switch summer 22, the youth camp breakdown. So that youth camp breakdowns for summer 2021 is actually summer 2022. We offered
No, 0%.
no 60 camps. We offered 60 camps.
Oh, I'm.
Yeah. That's not right either. Anyway, we offered 30 camps. Oh yeah, that's right. We offered 60 remote camps. Sorry, I got confused. We offered 60 remote camps last summer, 30 in-person camps this summer. We have a 0% cancellation rate, 414 students served in 100% in person. To me, that's just remarkable. So.
Well, something I can see this, why this is your favorite slide. Those are very, that's impressive.
I'm sorry, I got confused. I had summer 2022 on the left and Jen moved it on me.
Yeah, so, we're not done yet, right? This work is just beginning, and it's exciting work. So if we're going to be, running social media campaigns, we need video content. So next step is to, film our students and our instructors and talk about the impact these courses have in their lives. And we're also going to track what we're doing. So looking at, again, who our students are and where do they want to take courses and how, and continuing to make strategic use of that demographic information.
And I'm going to continue to work with Jen and her team to monitor and assess our marketing strategies to make sure that they're effective and impactful. We can make adjustments as needed. And then we just want to continue to expand our access to programming across the district for both youth and adults. Questions?
Anyone have any questions? Oliver?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. One is, you mentioned reaching out to Ben Parks about their experience moving away from a printed catalog. Curious how you work, considering the Parks and Recreation districts, the libraries offer community education programming of their own. How do you work with them to make sure that you're not duplicating offerings, or do you?
That's a good question. Actually, I work more with the libraries because they will reach out and sometimes they will want to share instructors. And with Ben Parks and Recs, sometimes we already share instructors. And so we really just kind of look and just kind of make that, I want to say anecdotally, we don't want to be in competition.
Yeah,
But sometimes we are going to offer the same courses. But if I have a shared instructor, we won't duplicate a class. You know, they're free to teach for other entities, but I just ask that they not, duplicate a class to create competition. Does that help answer the question?
it does. The other question is, you mentioned the barriers that particularly rural students face, and representing the only zone that doesn't have campus in it. I'm curious what thought you've given to, or what work you're doing in South Deschutes County.
That's an area where we definitely need to grow, and it's on my agenda and on my radar to really kind of get out there, see what the community has. I have not spent a lot of time down in the Pine. We are working, like I said, with the Upper Deschutes Watershed to bring a lecture series. We haven't quite scheduled that out in the area yet, but that was the intent, was to get something out in South Deschutes County. So it's something I would love to talk to you about and say, what can we do?
I'd love to facilitate some introduction.
Okay.
And we're certainly not leaving any of those out in terms of how we market. And so when we do send materials out, we're trying to save costs and make one material to go out to all households from a print perspective. But we are really highlighting the multiple modalities and trying to make it clear whether you live in Crooked River or in La Pine, that there's an option for you to participate in this learning, depending on, if you only want to drive to Redmond or you want to take it online, and just trying to be really clear about that.
And so Oliver, I hope you know where to go and want to have that discussion. I am completely open to it.
Erica, Jim, or Laura, do you guys have any questions? Go.
So,
I'm delighted with the update. Thank you.
and the update is great. It's great to see the numbers change from 21 to 22. You got all this data. I'm sure you got all this data on social media and website and tweeters and repliers. Is this a cost center or a profit center in regards to, do you measure if you're making money or coming out even? Is it something, a part of the mission?
Can you address that? Let me jump in there. This has been an issue, frankly, that we need to delve into more fully. My experience here and my experience at other institutions is that areas like CBIPD and community ed are set up to be profit centers, but they're not. So different people account for that in different ways. They charge some salaries to a general fund. I mean, they do some sort of magic. And I guess when I started looking at these programs, I wanted to my first concern was get them organized in a way that allows them to flourish, and make sure as we take that budget, that big budget, and split it in half, that people have, nobody ever has as much as they need, right? But they have what they need and it seems fair and equitable. And I promised them both that we're going to revisit the conversation because there's been a lot of stress to these units thinking they had to pay their own way. I highly doubt that's realistic, frankly. We don't ask that of other units to do. But I also fully acknowledge it's something we have to spend a little more time investigating. So right now I've said, let's not worry about paying our own way. It's never happened in the past, has it? I mean, it's never happened in the past, so I'm not gonna all of a sudden magically make it happen. And then let's discuss what the budget model is moving forward.
And can I just tag onto that really quickly, just as a new community coordinator, whatever I am. I appreciate that because it really is a paradigm and a philosophical shift from revenue generating to being a mission-driven program. And I'm trying to align us with being mission-driven with the college mission and being accessible to the communities. And so having that paradigm shift and having that new conversation is really important that we have that at all levels.
And I will say, I do think there are areas of college that can be profit centers. So I'm not at all opposed to that idea as a concept. I just don't think this is it, to be honest. And I think one of the things we also need to keep in mind, and Zach couldn't be here this evening, he's at Crooked River talking to those good folks about Madras. You know, he would talk about how so many of our donors we reach through community education. And that's pretty important. And I think we're only just beginning to see the fruits of what our stronger outreach in short-term trainings, contracted trainings, et cetera, are going to bring us. So that's the long answer. I wanted to save Stephanie from saying, oh.
I strive to be a profit center when I grow up.
I appreciate it. I just asked the question. People ask governments and schools and cities that run like a business. Can't be there. I recognize that. There are a lot of things in the business I had that were not profitable. They were pain. And if I didn't have them, I wouldn't have a business. So if you have a community effort that what we're talking about this evening, if you didn't have it, we probably wouldn't have a very successful inroads into our particular rural areas, as well as what people expect from us. There's a lot of things that people expect from a business standpoint. I didn't think there was any value, but it added to the. So I appreciate it.
So, and I'll just add that just when we talk about that cancellation rate, we run a class on break even. And so if the class is running, we're not losing any money. So we do our minimum numbers on what we're going to break even. Anything above that is what I call gravy. It's not a lot of gravy, but it's gravy. So what we're canceling are classes that are not going to make that break-even point. So essentially, we're not losing anything by running a class, but we might just be breaking even. And that allows us, we have some really successful classes, Spanish immersion. And if we look at it programmatically, we can do things in the rural counties at a little bit of the under break even to be there for the community. So it's really kind of a shell game, it's a magical.
Cross subsidy.
Yes.
Well, and I like to be there for the community. I would look at the catalog we put out and I'd go, oh, that's an interesting class. Do I want to spend $200 on it? And then I'd kind of make my decision. But, a lot of those people who you would have come into that class are taxpayers. And so in some ways, it's like, well, they've already paid for some of it. So, and if they're going to be a donor in other ways too, then it sounds like it's a good return on investment.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I've got two. Go ahead, please.
Oh, I just wanted, those numbers were so impressive, especially in 1 year to change the program up so much. And then how you adjusted to meet community needs and meet them where they are. So that it's just so impressive. Thank you. Thank you for this work. I'm sure it took a lot to do it. So thank you.
I can totally concur with what Erica said. Two quick questions having to do with the demographics. I'm curious, as you did the deep dive into sort of who are our current customers, do we differ from our counterparts around the state? And then second is, as we expanded from 21 to 22, did the demographic mix change? I mean, were we in fact able to move beyond just sort of the typical 50+ female? Did you see that, or is it that we got even more 50+ female coming out to what we're offering?
I can take part one and you can take part two.
And you may say,
Yeah,
we're still
you
gathering the
start,
data.
finish.
No, that's a great question. So the part one of your question is, yes, in general, our demographic mapped quite similarly to those of community colleges around the state. And I did not reach out beyond Oregon.
That's fine.
But yeah, so that held true. And in terms of where we're going, this shift has been so new. I mean, you saw the real increase in youth in those numbers, but we're taking a little bit more time before we step back and say, okay, so we've been running, some of this stuff has only been running for a few months, right? That first brochure won't hit your mailboxes for a couple more weeks. So we want to kind of, come December, I want to be able to answer that question for you.
Great.
And I would say anecdotally that I would say that, yes, we are attracting a younger demographic. But once again, I haven't done a deep dive and I've been focused in other areas, but what I see when I'm in the classroom is a younger demographic, plus a lot of 50-year-old females.
Okay. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Val,
So
very
much
much.
for
Appreciate
having
that.
us.
And giving you a hard act to follow.
Maybe you'll stand up and versus sitting down.
Right.
All right, so it's a pleasure to speak with you this evening. I really appreciate the invitation. My name is Ken Betchard. I run the Center for Business Industry and Professional Development. We'll go through a few things about it, but just a little bit about myself. I've been with the college for coming up on 3.5 years. Prior to that, I don't come from education. Prior to that, I worked in private industry, specifically in the finance and operations realm, working for large Fortune 500 companies, really as their controller or CFO in this kind of position. So moved to Central Oregon about 5 years ago in the Valley. I'm to dry out, as I like to say, knocking the rust off myself. And really wanted to do something entirely different than working in finance. And so really wanted to work with small businesses and actually came to the Small Business Development Center here at CSC. And it's evolved into now running the Center for Business Industry and Professional Development. Just a little bit on the agenda side. What I'll take you through this evening is really kind of 4 parts. It's about 10 slides total, so we'll move through them fairly quickly. But what is the Center for Business Industry and Professional Development? Who it serves, some of our recent success stories since starting this back in January, and then our vision for the future. Where do I really see this is going over time? I'd like to start out with a little bit of context setting on this particular slide here. Is we've had workforce development at our college for a number of years, right? And really, this is really all kinds of elements to it. There's the career and technical education. So you're talking about forestry, aviation, medical assistance coming out of the healthcare side. We've had apprenticeship programs as well, right? That's been around for a number of years. This evening, I'm going to speak to you specifically around the non-credit down here in the lower right-hand corner on Center for Business Industry and Professional Development. We do have Michael here this evening that can play backup if you want to talk a little more CTE and apprenticeship. We'll call them the varsity team for sure. So, you know, the Center for Business Industry Professional Development, I like to call it CBIPD. We're really an economic development organization. Right? There's many economic development organizations here in Central Oregon. You can look at EDCO, you can look at Chambers, you can look at Opportunity Knox. OSU Cascades has their innovation lab. We're just another piece of that puzzle, right? And, you know, where I'm really striving to be for CBIPD is that we're the preferred provider for business support and workforce training, right? To help educate and bring knowledge to the Central Oregon's workforce system. You know, I like to say that we're the place committed to enhancing skills of individuals. And it's both individuals that are looking to upskill, but also people who are currently employed, and those HR departments or development departments are actually trying to improve the skills of their workforce themselves. So really serving two different individuals. The folks looking to upskill and folks that are actually currently in the marketplace, and how do we improve their skills in their current work?
I'm sorry, Ken, what is the difference between those two again?
So
Sorry.
you might have somebody who currently works at a restaurant,
Okay,
but they want to become a welder.
okay, so it's
So
no,
somebody at
everything.
somebody from a restaurant is gonna
Gotcha.
say, you know what, I'm gonna pay for your training to go weld.
Okay.
Probably not gonna happen. Well, that's an individual looking at upskill.
Thank you.
I
I
know. So, you know, I view ourselves having three specific missions as a part of this department, right? First one, provide education for professionals to grow skills and capabilities in careers. That's a core piece of what we do, right? But again, a part of this, and I'll show you this in the next slide, is we have a tremendous responsibility with the Small Business Development Center to provide education and knowledge to entrepreneurs and business owners, right? Here in Central Oregon, the area that we cover at COCC has 9,500 businesses, almost 9,600 businesses. 80% of them have 10 employees or less. 93% of them have 25 employees, right? Small business owners, they need a place to go for education, knowledge, to grow, start, and even where we provide an exit for business. How do you go about selling a business? So we provide those kinds of services. This third piece of it is be a partner and influential to the ecosystem, right? So this is about partnering up with EDCO, working with individual chambers themselves, working with different organizations that say industry, Central Oregon, IPA, Independent Physicians Associations, those kinds of organizations that say, hey, come to COCC, CBIPD, we can help with getting the workforce training that you need. Speaking of kind of breaking this down into two parts, there's really two discrete responsibilities we have. Right-hand side, Small Business Development Center. Underneath it, these are the core services that we provide. So we provide one-on-one business advising to anybody who walks through our door. The only industry we cannot work with is marijuana. And that's because we received some federal funding and we all know that the feds don't recognize it. So that's the only industry that we're not able to work with. We can actually work with CBD, we just can't produce any THC. We design courses that are.
If you have too much marijuana, you become the CBD IPD, right?
The second thing we do is we offer practical courses. These are going to be things like how to write a business plan, finance and accounting for decision making. So I have my financials each month that come out of QuickBooks. What am I supposed to do with this? Do I just give them over to my accountant? What does that actually mean? The third piece is programs, and we offer some specific programs. And in just a moment, I'll talk to you about what one of those are and how successful it's been in the pilot program. The other side of the house is workforce training. This is the area that we really look to grow and develop much further. We have our open enrollment courses. So that could be things like leadership courses, Excel, computer programming, you name it along the way, but anybody can take these kinds of courses. We also have licensing and test prep courses. So these are going to be courses that lead more directly to a job. Real estate broker, getting your contractor construction license along the way. One of the more popular ones that I surprised a couple of individuals today with was pesticide application. Huge need in the state of Oregon for landscapers, Forest Service individuals to properly apply and use Department of Agricultural rules on applying pesticides. Last one is customized training. I'll have a really good example of that in just a minute, but this is where we go out and work with businesses to say, you have a training need, you're not finding it met here in Central Oregon. You want something specifically for your business. Let us help design what that curriculum will look like and find an instructor for you and put it on at our facility or your facility needs. So again, two different functions that we play, and also for that matter, two different markets. So with that in mind, let's kind of move on to who we serve. So I went back and kind of restated last fiscal year, July 1st of 2021 through June 30th of this year. We offered about 240 courses between workforce training and SBDC. We had about 2,300 individual students come through our doors, take courses. It equated to nearly 75,000 of hours of classroom, right? So this is not a small amount of individuals that are coming to either SBDC or workforce training. The second piece of this is, on the SBDC side, and I mentioned earlier about advising, we advised about 400 businesses last year, spending about 1,700 hours with them, just consulting and advising and how do we help their business grow or launch or exit, as I mentioned earlier. Third one is a really interesting one. So one of the services that we provide, we have an advisor on staff that is designed to work with individuals who really struggle with getting capital into their business. They may need capital to buy a building. They may need capital to actually purchase the business itself. They may need just simply an operating loan for regular cash flow. We have an advisor on staff that will actually work with individuals to help them get them funded through local banks or through Central Oregon Intergovernmental Council, CYC. We don't do the loans themselves. We don't do the applications on their behalf. We work with them to make them a more attractive, fundable business from our local bankers. Bankers will actually come to us and say, hey, we had to turn this bank down or this business down, but can you work with them over the next 6 months to get them funded? And we'll do that.
To provide technical assistance.
Absolutely. Yep. So just working with those businesses, we were able to infuse about $9 million in capital. And lastly, the businesses that we work with, we go back into them and we say, hey, since you started working with this, how many additional jobs have been created in your businesses? And just over the last year, it's been roughly 40. And those are the ones that just report, right? We have many folks that don't report. Lastly, I'd like just to show you a little bit about students and businesses that come through our doors. Where are they from? You can see the predominant amount of individuals coming from Bend, the Pareto out of Redmond, Madras, Prineville. But interesting enough, about 15% of the folks that take our classes come from outside of COC's area. And this is because we're offering classes that they can't get in other places. So I go back to that pesticide applicator room, right? We have folks coming from Valley or Medford or the coast that come to take COCC courses. Another one that we see quite a few folks come from outside the region is we teach the test prep for CCB or the construction contractors board test. And we teach it in Spanish. And we're one of the few places that are allowed to teach it in Spanish. And the folks will come over from Valley and teach it here. We generate about 150 FTE for the college for the courses that folks come to. I want to take you through 3 success stories that we've had, and many more, but these are the ones that I'd like to highlight. So first off, I mentioned the idea of you have upskillers, individuals, you have businesses that you're trying to offer courses to. If you look at the range of industries that we have in Central Oregon, right, we have healthcare, number one, construction, number two, professional services, which you could lump everything from legal, accountants to personal services, hair, barbers, nail services, right? But if you really look at the industries we have, it is this dichotomy of individuals. So how do you decide to try to design courses for specific industries? Or you try to design courses for individuals? And the approach that we've taken is we're doing more of an industry agnostic to offer courses that can cut across multiple industries. So if you think about leadership, right? That's not an industry. You need leadership courses across all industries themselves. If you think about project management, you have project managers in all of these kinds of industries themselves. So what we've done is we've taken all of our courses and bundled them into these kind of categories where we can sell into or offer them into multiple types of industries. And you'll see more of this coming in the future of not always trying to offer something specifically for construction or specifically for that. We'll offer some of those, but we really want to offer courses that can touch multiple types of industries. And what you have here on the right-hand side is a snapshot of our updated website. Thank you, Jen, and her team for help us design this. But these bundling of courses where you have leadership and managerial excellence, you have entrepreneurship, you have project management, you have licensing and certification, where you can cross these multiple types of industries and offer courses. If we were to click on these, you would see that there's anywhere between 3 and 10 courses that we offer within those bundles. Individuals can take the whole suite of courses, or they can take just one. Very good response from the back in the community and bundling this. Easier to find, easier to understand. Second one I want to take you through is public sector. So in our customized training area, what we actually do is we go out and meet with 6 agencies and their HR departments. And we actually meet with them to say, what kind of training needs do you have within your organization? This is the city of Bend, this is the library, COIC, Deschutes County, and the city of Redmond. And we meet with them and they bring us, here exactly are the courses that we need development of our staff done. What can you guys do? What we actually produce, this is a snapshot of the front cover of it, is we produce a catalog twice a year, specifically for courses designed for these 6 governmental agencies. Anywhere between this fall, we had about 50 courses. Spring, we probably had 60 courses. And it's a combination of both in-person, offered here at COCC, or they can be at their facility, or we actually do on-demand hybrid courses. We do this twice a year. It's extremely popular because it allows those agencies not to have to invest and create their own training departments. And it gives us a lot more agility because we can change the topic or the content every 6 months. Hey, earlier this year it was focused on leadership. Now we want to work on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Let's design some content. Let's find some instructors for that.
And help me understand, how is that, are the training offerings in that catalog, how different would they be from some of the general stuff that you're doing?
Good question. Some of them, we actually utilize our open enrollment courses, and some of them are specific for what they went in. Like, like diversity, equity, inclusion, we might open up to the entire open enrollment, the entire public. But we also, they might want a closed door session specifically for their employees. And there are some topics that are very unique.
And you do charge for it.
Yes, yeah.
On the Republican of the.
Yeah.
They're a profit center.
Remember,
There's your profit center.
remember, I worked in finance for 30 years, right? So Okay.
There is a distinction between the FDC and most of the laws, correct?
Well,
Charged
our,
versus not charged.
our SBDC, we pay, those are, we. We do charge for our SBDC courses. We do not charge for our advising. All our advisors. Last one is the Early Child Education Business Accelerator. I'm sure this group has not talked about childcare at all in the last 24 months, right? But this is a really unique program where the city of Bend came to the SBDC in June of last year. This also really shows our agility and flexibility in doing something quickly. They came to us and said, we know we have a childcare problem. There's a lot of things happening on multiple fronts. What can the SBDC do to help with this? You're really good at training businesses to be for-profit entities. How can you help this industry? And so what we came up with is this concept of a business accelerator focused on launching home-based childcare businesses. Only home-based childcare businesses. And what we ended up doing is in a partnership with Neighbor Impact, we teach all the business elements of how to start a business, how to charge for a business, what does a break-even business look like in a home-based childcare setting. And Neighbor Impact teaches all the licensing requirements that come out of the early learning. And if you complete the program, which is 7 weeks long, in addition to the 7 weeks, I should say 7 weeks in the classroom, 7 weeks in the classroom, plus you have 8 one-on-one advising sessions with a business advisor. You complete that program, you license your business with the Secretary of State, and you get licensed from the Early Learning Division. We will cut you a check for $5,000 to start your home-based job. The funding from this program has come from Deschutes County, from the City of Bend, the City of Sisters, and the Oregon Small Business Network. We started as a pilot, so we applied for a grant in July. We got the grant approved. We launched this program in October, and we've run 4 cohorts. We actually start our 5th cohort tonight across the street at Health in the Health Careers Building. And we've had 32 people complete the program. We've awarded 17 grants, and we've created 100 new childcare slots in our district. This program is not limited to Bend, even though it's been pretty much Bend funders. We have folks attend from Madras, we have folks attend from Prineville, we have folks attend from Redmond, La Pine, all areas. It's not restricted to just Deschutes County. What you have here pictured is an article about this program in the Oregonian showcased in early August. And it talks about the success, and this is actually one of the childcare providers we helped get off the ground. It's just been a really, really great program, such that we've received a secondary grant to continue this pilot for 2 more years. We've been asked to try to pilot at other SBDCs and community colleges across the state. And this grant is also going to cover trying to launch commercial-based childcare, where you'd have at least 50 slots. And if you pass, we're creating the program right now, but if you complete that program and launch your business, the grant will be substantially larger depending upon the businesses. So 3 really good examples of the kind of work that we're doing. So what's the future of CIB? So I've kind of hinted towards it in the, I want us to be known as the place for workers, right? Come to us, we can create customized solutions. We can take a look at new industries that are opening up, the trends in there. But we become, as a community college, the place for folks to come for workers. But what does that really look like in the future, right? So we're really looking at increasing our offerings in some specific areas. Network administration. We'll come back to my comment earlier about not trying to focus on industries, but individuals that can cut across industries. Network administrators are needed in education, in healthcare, in construction, and all kinds of different places, right? Cybersecurity is another place that we're looking to launch some courses within the next year. We're looking to launch courses that lead more directly to a job than what we have today. You'll see in the future more certificates or micro credentials. So individuals that will take a series of classes and walk away with their certificate that says, hey, I've done this work in bookkeeping, or I've done this work in cybersecurity. I'll touch upon manufacturing tech in kind of what's the future, and that is when it comes to robust long-term employer relationships, right? I'm a big believer of you got to go out and talk to the industries and see what they want in order to develop the content that you're going to offer, not the other way around. And hey, I got some wonderful instructors. Let's offer something like this. Because oftentimes there can be a mismatch. When I think about what we're doing right now, we're working with EDCO and we're working with East Cascade Works to talk to the biotech industry here in town. There's about 800 manufacturing tech jobs in the biotech industry in Central Oregon. They're always having to recruit and hire new individuals. Well, what if we could create a program where that initial training that you need for a clean room setup and the gowning that's required and the policies and procedures that you have to follow, if we could train those individuals up front, that allows their ramp to be much more quickly when they go join a biotech firm here in Central Oregon. We're working with EDCO and with East Cascade Works to see what we can do to offer that particular industry. That brings up, I mentioned it here, customization and agility. That's the great thing about non-credit is you can go much, much faster to create a program than you can on credit. And the last thing, if I could wave my magic wand and say, okay, what would I really want in the future? College has done a really great thing, and we're getting ready to move out of Chandler building off the train. And we're going to be moving right across the street to Cascade, so we'll be located down on campus. We think that'll also help us build partnerships with the for-credit side, so we can actually have a conversation of, hey, here's what we're doing on the non-credit side. What are you guys doing on the credit side, and how do we build partnerships within our own organization? But if I really think about, hey, what do I really want in the future? Thinking more about Dr. Chesley chuckles. I mean, she's very supportive.
I said vision for the future. He took me up on it.
Right. I really see something that's more like a dedicated training center, right, where we have dedicated classrooms, dedicated facilities that are unique for kinds of industries that we're working with. Come back to the whole thing. We decided to move forward with biotech. You need to have space to show how gowning works. You need to have space to show how some of the equipment works. Right? We're not going to have the try to teach biology. That's not what we're trying to teach, but you have to understand how do you work in a confined environment when you're wearing gloves and a mask and gowns and all that kind of stuff, right? So I'm thinking more about what kind of assets do you need in the future based upon the kind of work we're doing right now. And then the last thing is as Mr. Fisher, I was kidding about is like, how do we more directly integrate our credit offering with the non-credit? So I take a look at some of our business offerings. We have great business offerings. How could we leverage what we're doing on the non-credit side, say bookkeeping, where we can offer something that would get folks training them to be bookkeepers more quickly than always trying to go for CPA or accountant, right? You need to have bookkeepers in order to do accounting, in order to get your CPA set. So one last thing before I leave, I just want to acknowledge my staff. We're a small and mighty team. They do amazing, great work. And I cannot say that any of this could be done without our teams, right? They're wonderful individuals to work with. And I truly appreciate everything they do for our department and this team. So with that, I'll take any questions or comments. Yes.
I wanted to ask about, and you've mentioned it some, credit, non-credit, badges, certificates. There's all things out there, and maybe talk a little bit more about it, because we get paid for credit, but a lot of the work needs to be done in the non-credits.
Yeah, and I would say we get paid on the non-credit side too. We generate FTE just like we generate FTE on the for-credit side. What's really different about non-credit is you're trying to meet the needs of a different kind of individual, right? Somebody who just is not interested in going back to school for 2 years or 4 years or 6 years, you pick the number. And they want practical things quicker, right? And you see a shift in this in the education community. You see a lot more of the non-credit coming. And the idea of certificates really then gives an employer an understanding of what have they taken? And how do I take that credit and apply it to the work that I used to get done? Oh, this kind of certificate or this kind of micro credential in cybersecurity, I know that this person's taken these kinds of steps that I can trust and hire that in. And it takes away a lot of, I guess it's just, I would say it's a faster way to a job if an academic path is not prevented. We all learn in different ways. We want to try different things. And so some individuals want to take the full academic route. Other folks want something more practical and more quickly.
More flexible.
Yeah.
Because it takes a long time to create a credit.
Well, there is a creation of courses, but also if I'm somebody who's working in a restaurant and I want to go be a welder, there are programs, of course, here at our college that they could take, but they may not have the hours to be able to take all that, right? And they just need to take something in machining or heliarc welding, not the 4 or 5 other courses. So it quickens the process it takes to get them into a new role.
Thank you.
Bruce, can I ask a couple questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. So 2 questions. First, a quick comment. Great presentation. I don't think I fully appreciated the scope of what you do, so thank you. My 2 questions, when you listed this number of students, was that unique students? Because then you talked about bundling courses, and I'm assuming some people take more than one course. So I was just curious if that was unique students or not. And then my other question is about the catalog. Is that a printed catalog or is that now a virtual catalog like the bigger community ed one?
I should have mentioned that. I should anticipate that question coming. So to your first question, that is unique students. The number, it's actually a larger number if you look at the number of classes. That catalog, we provide it in a PDF format and we give it to the agencies and they decide how they want to distribute it.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I got one more. Childcare. You guys are doing some new stuff and you're focusing on home care where maybe there's a lot more growth can happen. I just wanted to shout out and say thank you. We're moving the needle and I've never seen the needle ever move before. So thank you.
I really am passionate about that program because I can see it as something that can live for a long period of time. If you just look at home-based childcare businesses, they last about 4 years. So we're always going to have this pipeline of needs of new home-based childcare businesses.
They last as long as your kids in the program and then you get out of it.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, thank you very much for your time. I definitely want to echo what Laura said. And again, this really provides sort of put some meat on the bones about a little more details. I think as board members, we have kind of a high level understanding of what your efforts are involved, but you provide a lot more good detail for us. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just observe about Ken, how much I appreciate him and how much members of this community appreciate him. He rivals Zach Boone in terms of being one of the most popular, well-known people in our district. And, I'll say even particularly about the child care accelerator work. One of our county commissioners took the time to call me up on the phone and say, this was a great investment of our money. You guys are doing so much to improve child care here. And I think that's pretty unusual. So I really appreciate all of Ken's outreach in our community.
Great. Thank you. Moving on to new business, Neighborly Ventures Phase 2.
Thank you.
Bruce,
Yes.
this is Laura. You know the routine. I'm going to recuse myself. If someone could please text me, Erica or Dr. Tesley, when.
Do it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Thanks.
All right.
Hello, thank you, as always, for the opportunity to come in. For those that haven't met, I'm Pete McCaffrey. I work with Williamson Properties and working on the campus board project at CCC. I think the last time that I was at a board meeting was back in February. And it was about this 3-acre parcel that's now 2.81 after dedications of rights of way to the city. But excited to present an update on it and one that we've talked about in the real estate committee. And I'm actually going to go to the second slide to start, just because the visual, like starting with the visual, and then we kind of go into the bullet point summary. The last time that we presented the ground lease opportunity with Waverly Ventures here on this site was a 108 unit, 55 and older apartment community. And what's changed now is it's a 69 units, it's fewer units, and it is a market rate, no age restriction apartment community that will really be a second phase of the existing project that everyone's probably seen is broken ground just down the road from here across the street from this site. And in a counterintuitive way, the feasibility of the project, previous project wasn't feasible. This one is by going to looking at there's fewer units. That's counterintuitive, but it's a less expensive construction type because it's not a 4-story building that has lots of closed and conditioned common areas. They don't have to duplicate the various amenity facilities. So they don't have to do another community room and fitness center and things like that because they're going to use the project that's across the street. And they can do this garden style apartment project, which it's going to be a lower massive buildings, it'll be 3 stories instead of 4, spread out in a variety of different buildings. And the we recommended the previous project and we continue to recommend this one. And I'll give a summary. This will be redundant for folks that are on the real estate committee, but I'll allow them, allow Paul to do it as well and then take questions. Again, the site is 2.81 net acres. It's zoned RH land, so that's the higher density residential zoning. 69 residential units, combination of 18 1-bedroom, 51 2-bedroom apartment units, and again, no age restriction, which is a change from the previous plan. It's a 70-year lease term. There's a 30-year initial term with 4 10-year options. The lease amount is $111,512 per year. And then every 5 years that will change based on the change in the real market value of the land determined by the Streets County Assessor. That means is the main objective of these ground leases is that inflation adjusting so that this is a durable income stream that over time delivers the same benefits to the college. And so that's the emphasizing that point there. It's a 10-month, which is 305-day due diligence period. So the team will have, Waverly Ventures will have 305 days to secure their financing, get approvals from the city of Bend to proceed. And because of their history with the site, we feel confident that they'll be able to do that in that time frame. And then we're looking at rent commencement approximately fall of 2024. And the rent commencement is based on their opening time frame. There's an outside date that they have to start paying rent within, but it will come sooner than that if their construction happens as we currently have. So I'll pause there. I don't know if members from the real estate committee have anything to add, or if there's questions from the board about the project.
I don't have anything to add. Appreciate the summary. That makes it a lot easier relative to our conversations with the real estate meeting. But we did have a robust conversation, concerns. I don't have anything to report to the board that we should be aware of that say we should not approve this.
Well, I'm not on it, but I'm excited that we're moving forward. We have a project and it looks to me like it's a better project than the other one. So you guys move forward with new ideas. I like it.
I am so excited about this, just as I've been excited about just about everything you've brought to us from Waverly Ventures, but I am just curious what the sort of what led to that change from 55 and older to no age restriction.
The 55 and older project was a more expensive construction type. It was a taller building. There's a lot of hallways, common areas that are finished spaces, and that they do believe that the rents were there for that style of product to justify that. And so initially, they were letting us know that they weren't going to be able to proceed, and we didn't want to let them go that quickly. And so I put the bug in their ear to say, well, you thought about it as a fixed to the existing project. You wouldn't have to duplicate amenities, things of that nature, and fortunately, they like that idea, and they're kind of adjusted the program, and again, we recommend it. We think it's the right way to go. It's gonna be more efficient than, you know, if you consider an alternative developer coming, they would have to duplicate all those rec facilities that they're already gonna have across the street, so I don't think there's someone poised to do it as efficiently as they can.
Well done. Thank
Great.
you.
Jim or Erica, any questions, comments?
No, I'm excited about the change too. So looking forward to the fall of 2024. That's the opening?
Yeah, the first phase will hopefully be opening first units late next fall, early winter. So it's on this side of Shelburne Park. And again, hopefully fall of 2024.
Great.
Yeah, approve this Abilene Development ground lease and surplus declaration with the verbiage is contained in our report and
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I just like to say it's a lease land thing, and we didn't have to sell our land, and I'm really happy about that.
Great. All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Opposed? Great. Thank you very much, Peter. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Always a pleasure. Appreciate it.
Okay, I just texted Laura, so she should come back.
You appreciate that. Paul, any comments from your, I guess we've already moved it.
No, I made a bunch of notes for the inevitable questions, and by doing so, cut them all.
Well, in the lease, you like the lease.
It's virtually identical to the original lease, the difference being that the provisions that deal with leasehold financing have just been expanded on somewhat basically in response to the experience they had getting them funding for the first project. So it's basically we've done the lender negotiation part now instead of afterward. But the provisions between those two loans or two lenders also work through the same. Basically, yes, we understand lender will want, additional notice rights, additional rights to cure, things like that. We tried to eliminate things where the right to cure wasn't indefinite, that there were clear instructions for who gets notice and when they get it and so on. I guess that's probably been mentioned.
Thanks. Great, thank you. The next item is board member activities. And Oliver, are you willing to start?
Sure, I have nothing more.
That is quick. That's going to be a hard act to follow. Alan.
So we've kind of been on summer break, but OCCA hasn't. So I've had a August executive committee meeting for the Oregon Community College Association. And on the 9th, I had a retreat. And yesterday, I had a diversity, inclusion, and equity meeting.
Great, thank you very much. Joe?
basically we met with the real estate committee. But I have in my record, I failed to look in the calendar. Yeah, that's where I do. Can't remember it or have it in my records.
Okay, good. Jim?
There was a meeting of the Audit and Finance Committee. And I think that's it.
We will add that Alan also participated in that. Thank you. Erica?
Nothing to report.
Laura?
So I can't remember when that real estate committee met, but I was there. Also, I had a call on August 15th with Dr. Chesley about the Aubrey Butte property and several email correspondences with her and Paul Taylor and Brian Fratsky. And then I had an email exchange with a constituent, which then prompted me to have email exchanges with Dr. Chesley because this person wanted to know why we had quit printing the catalog for the community learning classes, which I think may have played some role in our agenda tonight. But anyway, I got a great answer and I was able to pass that along to the constituent. And that's all I got.
Thank you. I would say my activities, and I'll try to put some dates to some of them, and some were phone calls that weren't necessarily scheduled, had to do with sort of the transition of assuming the role of chair, and then working not only with Dr. Chesley and Joe as far as how we wanted to communicate things along those lines. And then I also had some conversations with Paul and Dr. Chesley regarding her contract. So if I had to put a date to it, met with Dr. Chesley on August 4th, talked to Joe Krenowitz on August 11th. Jen Kovich took a nice picture of me on the 24th. Spread out all of her various publication, appreciate that. Joe and I then also came in to talk with Lori again, specifically on September 1st. And so hopefully any glitches now going forward are my responsibility.
Well, this should be the time. The Oregon Community College Association has a new director, but she's not new to Oregon and she's not new to Salem in the capital. And I just wanted to say, between her work and the team that they have there, they are in good shape. They're working well together, and I anticipate they'll do great things at the next session that's here. But they're still doing great things today, just working with all 17 community colleges. So we had a retreat, and I'm just happy to say they're working well.
Great, thank you, appreciate that. Next item is President's report, talking about your climate discussion. Erica, you didn't have
She
any?
had no report.
No report.
It's me.
You're up.
I just want to mention a few things. One of them is letting you know that in the next several weeks, when our new director of campus services comes on board, a gentleman for whom Alicia is most grateful, because she's been in the interim campus services person. Our college will be signing what's called a President's Climate Commitment. And that is a commitment by over 440 college and community college presidents to aspire toward and document progress toward a number of climate goals. And Jim Clinton knows about this. I think Bruce, you do as well. We have a sustainability committee on campus and some good folks who've been wanting us to sign this document for a long time. And I said to them, and I meant it, and now I'm saying it publicly, when our new campus services person is here, we are going to sign that. And it requires us to, again, assess our climate friendly practices, carbon emissions, things of this nature, and report on those. And it also provides for us a lot of expertise to help us meet those goals. And I think this is an important step for us. And I see that not only, sustainability is an important step for us in terms of environmental stewardship, but I think of it more broadly as well. And it absolutely connects to our efforts around social equity and economic viability. And so I'm happy that those folks have been persistent, and I appreciate their passion. There's a lot of passion on this campus for sustainability, and I think this is a good next step. So I want you to know that soon you'll be seeing probably a press release and some other information on that. Fall term starts Monday. Super excited about that. And next week as well, our strategic plan community listening sessions begin with a session in Prineville and one in Bend. And so I've noted those dates and times in my updates to the board, and I'll send an additional reminder probably tomorrow as well, for those of you who might like to attend and listen, and remind you that at the retreat on October 7th, there will also be a session just for you all.
Great.
So that's my report.
Good. Thank you very much, Lauren. Next item is the dates, and so these are all on your agenda. Let me just quickly walk them through so people who are watching are aware what we're going to be looking at. She's mentioned Friday, October 7th, we're going to have a board retreat. Are we having it here?
We are having it on this campus as agreed. And we're still trying to locate what the best room would be, but it will be on the Bend campus here.
Yeah. And again, obviously the agenda is still to be worked out. We thought there was some significant cost savings by doing that. And hopefully there might be an opportunity for us to look at, perhaps from a walking tour or something like that, some of the new construction or projects and activities that are happening at the college.
And Alicia, I haven't told her this yet, but she is going to come up with a super fun ice breaking activity for
Great.
us. She has real skill in that regard. So something she's looking
They're all
forward to.
count for background, right?
Yep, there you go.
Great. On Tuesday, October 11th, is a real estate committee meeting. On Wednesday, October 12th, our next board meeting, we're going to be holding it up in Redmond. I'm very excited for us to be able to, again, continue our process of meeting at various campuses around our region. Wednesday, October 19th, Anthony's at the Old Mill. Nice to have that back.
Yeah.
Back in person as well.
Is that a fundraiser?
That's a fundraiser for the foundation.
Culinary scholarships in particular.
And then our next board meeting after that is on Wednesday, November 9th, which will be here again. Okay. At this point, we are going to adjourn to executive session. The executive session is held pursuant to ORS 192.660, section 2, subsection D, labor negotiations. Representatives of the news media and designated staff are allowed to attend the executive session. However, as a reminder, the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session. Under the provisions of the Oregon Public Meetings Law, the proceedings of this executive session are for background information only and not for publication or broadcast.
So I'm going to